Welcome along to Point Blank Music School here in London, where today we're joined by DJ, producer and label boss Optimum. With releases on the likes of Planet Mu, Night Slugs and of course his own Hum+Buzz imprint which he co-runs with Iconica, we're very privileged to welcome along Optimum for a studio session here. So we're here to get a bit of an insight into his track Max Power, which was released on Planet Mu. And to get a bit of an insight into how he works in the studio and some of the techniques that he uses. So yeah, first of all, welcome down.
Thanks a lot.
No problem at all. Before we get into the track itself, I just wanted to ask, whether you could give us a bit of background on yourself and how you originally got into making music in the first place.
I think I started when I was really young. I started I had piano lessons when I was about 8, 9. I did that for a few years, and then I kind of started getting into more like rock music, that kind of thing. So I learned guitar from about 12 or 13 up until I was like 18. And I got really into like kind of like hip hop, dance music, that kind of thing. So I got decks. So I ditched the guitar. Got decks when I was like 18. And then, just progressed from there. I just started buying records, started getting interested in actually, making my own music. And then I started off with like an MPC and then progressed onto computers and different programs and that. And then just took it from there, basically.
And what were you making, what kind of stuff were you making back then?
I started off making like kind of like hip hop, kind of instrumentals, that kind of thing. And then once I got kind of more into Fruity Loops on the PC, I got more into kind of making more like UK underground dance kind of music, I guess. So that was around, I started quite late, so it was about 2006, 2005.
Okay.
And so that was like kind of when like dubstep was when I started getting into like that kind of stuff, grime and dubstep, and it just carried on from there basically. Yeah. So
and those sounds, clearly has a fair bit of influence in your work.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's when it was around 2005, 2006 started going to like Forward and then like DMZ and that kind of thing. So I was really into the music coming out of South London primarily, and that kind of opened my ears to that kind of music. And then obviously I got into more different types of dance music, and then it all just comes together from that really. So
and how about Hum+Buzz, to talk about the label for a sec? How did that come about? How did you hook up with Iconica? I
met Iconica around the same time, really, around 2005. 2005 we met, and we both started. We both was kind of really getting into like that kind of music, and then we really wanted to start it about 2007, 2008, because around that time everyone was kind of doing their own thing. They were like, either putting on nights or starting labels, putting out tunes. Even like just recording radio shows and uploading them. It was such a kind of do it yourself,
get in the scene,
just for the good of the scene, just helping out the scene, rather than for your own whatever personal gain, because back then it was really small and nobody knew how big it was going to get. So anyway, we talked about it, and we both had like kind of was starting to make tracks, and then Iconica's track Please got signed to Hyperdub. And we were always going to start with one of our tracks anyway, but she got signed to Hyperdub, and then we kind of put it on the back burner for a while. And then luckily I was able to release on some other labels as well. So we kind of just didn't think about it for the moment. And then a couple of years ago we decided we had some like tracks that would fit our own label. So we just went for it basically. And it
definitely has a certain aesthetic to it. I mean, you can hear that in the releases. Is it something that has has been there at from the beginning, or is it something that kind of fell into place? If you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's kind of fell into place. So we didn't have like a kind of grand plan for a particular, kind of sound or aesthetic or whatever. But when you after you released a few, or you've got like kind of some coming up, you kind of look back and you start to see that there's themes running through them. Or at the start we didn't have no idea where it was going to go, but now we've had 6 releases. Looking through all of them, or if you listen to them all together, you can kind of see there's similar themes, running through.
I guess you can kind of look to the future as well.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, really, the A&R process is just if we really like the tune and we feel that it can do well, and we want other people to hear it. That's it, really. It's pretty basic.
Keep it simple.
Keep it simple. Yeah.
So to talk about to kind of step back to production, and to bring it up to today, do you have a set approach in the studio? Is there any kind of way that you sit down and work on a track, and did you have like a set approach on Max Power? How did you approach that?
Max Power is a little bit different. Usually I start with like melodies or chords. I usually start with just an empty project, and I've got my keyboard, and I just like play chords or play melodies or a riff, that kind of thing. But with Max Power, I had an idea to do a real. It was more of a kind of going to be about the rhythm rather than like kind of melodies or chord progressions or anything like that. So I started off with drums.
Okay.
But usually it's the other way around, and then I added everything after that. So,
okay.
Yeah.
So let's take a look.
Yeah, I think when I started a track, it was just a loop, and I think it was something like this. It was a pretty simple loop. I wanted to do it a little bit slower than like 140, so it was 135, and that allowed me to do a well, I kind of started just as a 4/4 kick and the snare on the like half time, and so it just started off from this, and then I expanded and made that into a 32 bar intro.
And how do you tend to program your drums?
Depends. Sometimes I just draw them in. Sometimes I'll play them with the MIDI keyboard.
Do you use the EXS or?
Yeah, I primarily use EXS. This one is just the standard 808 kit. Obviously, sometimes I'll play with all of these. Like this one's tuned down.
Okay.
And
the rim shot as well is doing a lot of movement in it.
I mean, I usually take time to make sure everything's tuned into the same key, just so it sounds correct. And then this is just a simple rise. You can see the automation here. And then that's a drop. I mean, it's pretty. It's not really that complex. I've also got some reverse cymbals here. Oops. Which is just the cymbal bounced and then reversed. And then kind of drops, and then once the drop comes in, there's like some claps that come in, and they're panned both left and right. So I've got one all the way to the left using direction mix as well, and then one all the way to the right, and those are just to give the track a bit more movement rather than just being half step kind of tune. And with the bass, I've got like just one quite low sub. That's EXS 24 again, which is just the one without no instrument, where it just gives you a sine wave. And everything's like kind of rolled off around here up to 150, and just a little boost here.
And do you tend to kind of EQ stuff as you go?
Yeah, I mix as I go on, just because it's I find that's the best way of doing it. And also there's a side chain on here, which is this one, I think. Yeah, audio 1, and this is just like a 4/4 side chain
for the kick.
So that's just like a 4/4 kick bounced, and then routed to. No, it's not routed anyway. It's just that. But I've also got a second side chain which is faster. So that one's there.
Okay.
And that one is for the mid bass, which is here. And you can hear the difference, obviously. That's you can see it here. This one's a lot faster than the sub. So for the mid bass, it's just one note. As I was saying, it's not really a melodic kind of thing.
But you're getting that movement.
Yeah, I'm getting a movement. It's also automated, so the pitch is going down, so it's going.
Okay.
With every.
And what's the that's on the ES2, that kind of mid range?
This bass is the ES2. Yeah. It was originally preset called Everlasting, but I changed some things around to get this sound. And with this one, I've rolled off around here to make sure it doesn't clash with the sub. So this is effectively the low end, which is kick, mid bass and sub. And then everything else, if you look at all of these EQs, everything else is kind of rolled off to make sure nothing else is coming in that frequency.
I mean, the bass is, I think, for your stuff, it always plays a major part.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think it's important to. I mean, I've done some tracks where there's no sub at all, but it's always kind of, there's always a frequency there. So even if it's like a one note sub on the kick or something, I feel just to give it, you have to give it some weight because it just uses the full frequency spectrum. And I've also got a lead which is similar to the mid. I think it's just the same note, but it's just played higher up the scale. But that's doing the same thing, and that is side chained as well. So you can see the side chain there, and there's a tremolo as well, which is if you take it off, you can see it's just being out. But tremolo's making it, kind of giving it a bit more movement. And then the drums just come in after that, basically. Still got the rims running and the hi-hats. And then with this track, kind of every 16 bars, something usually changes. And I've kind of, when I usually work, I do loads of colour coding so that.
Yeah, I was going to say it's a pretty neat project.
Yeah. I mean, I tidied up a little bit for coming here. Usually, sometimes there's loads of empty channels and things, but I think this just helps you keep a bit more focused, I find. So I got a second lead coming in here, which is this sound. And then there's like different claps, and then just kind of little simple changes every 16 bars, just to keep it interesting. And but I mean, not too overboard, because primarily it's a dance floor kind of track.
Yeah.
Like
and how about that? Is that the ESP for those? The little squelch are kind of nice.
These ones, yeah. This is the ESP. Yeah, this is just the default setting, and then program my own sounds into it. And this is there's just some reverb on it, which is which is on +3, and it's just a normal Apple audio unit reverb. And there's just compression and EQ. And yeah, that's that sound. Yeah, then there's just a little breakdown where it's just the bass and drums. Yeah, there's always automation here. There's either automation on the actual piano roll or the actual track. Not that much on the actual track. Yeah, then it kind of goes down to another little break. It goes back and then this lead comes back in, but there's a slightly different pattern to the one that came before. That's that, and then you can see that's the pitch. So it's kind of pitch bent up, down, and then up again quickly to give that weird sound. I mean, with this track, a lot of the changes are quite subtle.
Yeah.
You can only really see them if you look in the project. You probably wouldn't really notice them that much on the track unless you're really listening.
They keep it moving though.
But yeah, definitely. But when you're actually mixing, you kind of hear it more, and you're like, oh, there's more claps in this bit, and so on. Yeah, it just continues like that, basically.
And how about your, you know, when you do the mixing process?
Yeah.
You say you do it as you go. Do you then, you know, once you think, you know, this is finished, you know, I've got my arrangement down. What's your next step from there?
Arranging I would be obviously mixing as I go along, but when the arrangement is done and everything's written, then I'll have another kind of secondary mix down, I guess.
Okay.
And I'll make sure everything is, you know, sounding correct, all the levels are right, and all the panning is there, and yeah, go from there basically.
Yeah.
Make sure everything's sounding good. And on this project, all the plugins and stuff is all Logic plugins. I've got some extra ones now, but for this one I used just primarily, you know, Logic compression, the channel EQs, which are great.
So do you tend to, you know, kind of stick within the box in Logic?
Yeah, I use mostly like EXS24 for drums, Ultra Beat occasionally. I also use, you know, like audio samples where you drop it straight into the track.
Yeah.
Or I get my own samples and put them into the sampler, and make drum kits in that way. But primarily I use that, and then for like melodies and stuff like that I use ES2 and ESP, and yeah, whatever else just kind of comes in handy. It's good for the track. I do use some hardware, but very rarely.
And you don't tend to go to the kind of third-party software synths or anything like that?
I've got some, but I don't use them that much, to be honest. Yeah, I've got kind of because when I started with Logic, I bought like Logic and my MacBook together, and it was quite expensive. And I didn't really want it, and I really wanted to like make use of everything that was there, because everyone was always saying, oh, you need to get this, that, and the other, and I always thought, well, I've already spent all this money, and I've got like compression limiters and everything here, so at least try to kind of use them.
If you can master those, you shouldn't really need to go elsewhere.
I know, and So I just didn't really want to spend all this money on like all these other plugins. So for the first couple of years, I used just Logic.
I mean,
Logic
that's
stuff.
pretty good motivation to learn your tools, really.
Exactly, yeah. Now I have got loads of other plugins now,
Yeah.
and they do come in handy. And I think the main advantage is some of them may be a bit more user friendly.
Mm-hmm.
You can get them, and you can get a great sound straight away.
Yeah.
Whereas with Logic, you may have to work it a little bit, but I'm used to it now, so you know, I don't see any reason to change really.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So yeah, I mean, Max Power as well. You know, it does have. I think we can say it has got that kind of Optimum sound. You know, is that something that's taken you, you know, a while to kind of get, you know, tuned into? I mean, it's definitely something that at the school here, lots of people do. You know, are searching for that kind of their own sound, their own identity.
Yeah, I think just kind of just trying out different sounds, and you know, when you're happy with your kind of palette of sounds that you know really like and think they represent you, then it just went from that basically. Like I mostly used the same kind of drum sounds, I guess, but with synths and stuff, I'm always looking for different you know, different sounds, just because it gets boring using the same stuff all the time.
Yeah.
And you always find different ways of working and different sounds that you like, you know. So I'm always looking at different synths and seeing if I can, you know, come up with other sounds. But yeah, I always kind of just, I mean, even if you're using different sounds, whatever you like always seems to come to the come about in the end, you know, with a finished product. So even if you're consciously trying to be different, usually it sounds like you.
Yeah,
as long as you've, you know, I mean, maybe when you first start out, obviously you're trying to copy this, that, and other, but after a while, it just naturally happens, I think.
Yeah. And how about do you kind of master your stuff? Do you have a mastering channel that you kind of stick to or anything like that?
I have on Max Power. This is obviously this was fine, the pre-master, so I turned everything off here. But when I had just a bounce to do for kind of playing out, I had like just this like EQ, Logic Fat EQ, I think it's called, and this just like boosts around here and here for dance music. I think I changed a few things, but it's kind of just a preset really.
Yeah.
And then there was a compression, which is like a mix enhancer, and adaptive limiter was the last one. Oops.
And is that your kind
that's
of
just
yeah?
That's my kind of
go-to
kind of chain. Yeah, I mean, I've got some other things here, like level meter just checks levels, and the multipressor, which is kind of like it compresses each kind of frequency range in one plugin. So that's pretty good to use. For this case, it's bypassed, but you know, I'll use that as well. And these days I've got some slightly different third-party ones that I usually use, but for this track I used just Logic's in.
And you know, when you did mention kind of road testing stuff, playing it out, how do you you know, before you might be happy with it, how do you test it out in the club? You know, do you take it when you DJ?
Yeah, I mean, obviously you test it out on monitors and on headphones as well, laptop speakers, whatever you've got around, basically. You know, the car's a good one for testing things, and if you can get to a club where you sometimes have to sound check or something like that, that's also a good time, because you can just stand in the middle and work out what needs tweaking, if anything. So yeah, it's good, just on as many different systems as possible, really.
Cool. I think we'll kind of leave it there for Max Power. Have you got anything kind of coming up in the future that we should know about?
Just more label stuff, really. Hum+Buzz. I'm just concentrating on that. So I'm writing stuff for the label and doing some remixes. Yeah, there should be one coming out on. I've got a remix for Wildlife coming out.
Cool.
So that's the next one.
Okay,
Yeah.
wicked. Well, many thanks for coming down.
Thanks a lot for having me.
No problem at all. So yeah, that's it here from us at Point Blank with Optimum. Make sure you keep locked in to the YouTube channel, to the Facebook, for all of the more studio sessions we've got coming up. Also the live masterclasses as well. And if you do want to check out, a bit more about music production and learn a bit more, then head over to pointblankonline.net and have a look at some of the courses on offer. So that's it here from us. Thanks for watching. We'll see you very soon. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.